What's up, my friends? Welcome to this episode of the Whole Health with Rob Carney Podcast. So this is the platform to connect with and share the stories of health professionals, personal development leaders, and health entrepreneurs who are making an impact in the world. And in this episode, we have our guest, Matt Gallant. So Matt is the CEO and co-founder of BiOptimizers. So he has a bachelor's degree in kinesiology. He's been a strength and conditioning coach for multiple pro athletes, a self-defense instructor, and has over 10 years of experience formulating supplements. So in this episode, we dive into Matt's story, how health and entrepreneurship really all started for him at 12 years old. We talk about probiotics, enzymes, magnesium, and a whole lot more. And stay tuned to the end where Matt makes a special announcement about where BiOptimizers is going, some new products that are on the horizon, and as well as we can get a discount code for you. So if you are a fan of BiOptimizers or you want to try it for the first time, you can use the discount code WHOLEHEALTH to save 10% on your every order. So I'm super excited for you to listen to Matt, and here we go. All right, without further ado, Matt, welcome to the show.
It's great to be here, Rob.
Well, thank you for being here, my friend. So let me start off by, I want to hear your story. So as we just introduced you, you're the CEO, co-founder of BiOptimizers, along many other things you've done in your lifetime. So I'd love to hear where it all started. What got you interested in health, fitness, entrepreneurship, and everything else you do?
Yeah. So it really started when I was 12, and it's kind of a funny story. So I go to the mall with my parents, and there's a Body Glove shirt that I really want. Body Glove at that time was like a really hot brand, and I wanted to be cool. And I had a newspaper route. I was making like $30 a week, and the shirt was like $100. Now my dad is a frugal man, and he absolutely didn't want me to spend $100 on that shirt. But being a very rebellious teenager, I'm basically like, well, too bad, I'm buying it, which I did. So now for Christmas, I really wanted a guitar. And he said, if you buy that shirt, you're not getting a guitar. Which he was true to his word. He didn't get me a guitar. Instead, he got me a weight set, which proved to be an awesome gift. And I just bought a guitar with my own money 2 months later. So I got my cake and I ate it too.
Sounds like a win-win.
Yeah, go ahead.
So it sounds like a win-win.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. And then, so it started doing the weeder system, and then I trained for a little bit, and then lost track and lost momentum. And then when I was 16 years old, this was really the turning point. I was at the beach, and I saw two pro bodybuilders that became my friends many years later. I was just blown away. You know, I'd never seen that in person. And that was it. I kind of got bit by the bodybuilding bug and wanted to transform my body. So became totally obsessed. And went from 147 to 235 in 3 years, training twice a day, doing the anabolic diet, which was a cyclical keto and without steroids, drugs, or hormones. Now, keep in mind, there was some fat gain in there, but there was a tremendous amount of muscle gain. And at the same time, again, there's going to be a lot of simultaneous things because a lot of things were happening simultaneously. But at 19, I decided to compete, which was another turning point. So I dropped 64 pounds in 14 weeks getting ready for the show. And I did so many mistakes and discovered that I hated dieting that hard. I mean, just to explain how crazy it got at the peak of the madness. And we talk about, how to cut body fat properly. Again, we really know how to dial in all the parameters now. We didn't even a few years ago, not like we do now with diet breaks and refeeds and reverse dieting and all the things that the science has shown us to be true. But the bottom line mistake I made was I got down to 205, 200 pretty smoothly in a few weeks. And then I realized I need to cut a lot more body fat. So I started training twice a day with weights. I think I got up to maybe 90 minutes of cardio a day at its peak. And then I cut my calories down to 600, which was 3 small ground beef patties a day. I had no bowel movements for 3 weeks, like the last few weeks before the show. I was basically incinerating the 600 calories, of course, and lost about 20 pounds of lean body mass. And I wasn't ripped. I wasn't shredded. I had no coach. The whole thing was a disaster. I went to the pre-judging, and I felt like I'd put my heart and soul for the previous 3 years into this journey, and I'd failed. So I remember going to my girlfriend's place. I cried. I was just devastated. Devastated, losing the muscle tissue, kind of felt embarrassed and ashamed of how I looked. I mean, I looked okay for a guy that wasn't on stage, but when you got bright lights and you're next to shredded people, if you're not in that shape, it's not a good feeling. So that was kind of the end of my bodybuilding journey. I still love, I'm like 220, 5'10", relatively low body fat. So I still love, again, I don't consider myself a bodybuilder, but I still love training like one at times. But after that, there was another huge experience, which was helping my best friend lose 191 pounds in 18 months. And he was 391, virgin, and he dropped down to 200, and he got married not that long after. So I saw the whole transformation. It wasn't just his body, it was his mind, his emotions, his confidence. And that got me hooked. So I decided right then that I was going to have a career helping people. So I went to the University of Moncton. I got my degree in kinesiology, my degree in the science of physical activity. And I started training people. I was training people in university. I worked with some NHL hockey players. And another thing that my next obsession, I tend to get obsessed with things. My next obsession after bodybuilding was hand-to-hand combat and self-defense. And I got lost in that rabbit hole for 7 years, training with the Navy SEAL, very similar to Krav Maga, that same mindset. So that was fun. That was more on the athletic performance side and really learning to develop the nervous system and athletic capabilities, which is very different than building muscle tissue. So that was that. And then built 2 really successful personal training businesses, sold them, built one in Moncton where Wade's from too. And that's where I met Wade. Actually, the first time I ever saw Wade was the night that I competed, that only time. He won that show. I was in the juniors. He was in the open class. And he won that show that night. That I think might have even been his first big win. So I met Wade at the gym. We struck a friendship. And again, like all this stuff's going on simultaneously. I moved to Vancouver, build another personal training business. And simultaneously for multiple years, I'm studying marketing, copywriting, and internet marketing. So I started launching businesses online and was successful.
What year was this? What year was this, Matt?
The first business I launched, I believe, was in 2002 online.
Okay, so you're really ahead of the game.
Yeah, that was my first success. I actually made my first sale on the internet my first year of university, which would have been like 24 years ago. I sold a training program on a Newsnet group. Now, I didn't turn into a business, but that was mind-blowing, just some stranger sending me money for a training program. Anyways, back to Vancouver, built a training business, and then Wade won a national, so at this point, Wade's career in bodybuilding kept evolving. He wins the Canadian Nationals natural bodybuilding as a vegetarian. Now, this is 18 years ago. So again, vegetarianism obviously was kind of a really fringe thing. And it's a hard thing. I mean, you have to be in a lot of ways smarter to bodybuild as a vegetarian than as a meat eater, in my opinion. So I just thought it was really marketable. And again, I had a couple of successful businesses online. I said, hey, bro, let's package what you've got. Let's promote you. And we built a training program called Freaky Big Naturally. We launched it in January of 2004, and it was a hit right away. And then soon after that, and there's another pivotal point leading to kind of where we are now. There was a doctor named Dr. Michael O'Brien, and we went to 2 of his seminars. One was a full day one, and it was one of those experiences where your view of the world changes completely, and was specifically our view of the body. Understanding that there's 2 bioworkers that do almost everything in the body, which are your probiotics and enzymes. Enzymes do 25,000 different functions in the body. But, spending a full day with them, and he shared a lot of his protocols and just mind-blowing stories, we decided, you know what, let's do his protocol. It was like $400 or $500 a month in supplements. It was massive dosages of enzymes and probiotics and other things, including P3OM. And we were just blown away. I dropped a bunch of body fat, built muscle tissue. The energy was just another level. Like, when your biology is really humming, which is what we're all about at BiOptimizers, you just feel different. The vitality, the drive, your serotonin, your dopamine, you're not tired. You can go for 12, 14 hours. Like, you can kind of do whatever you want to do biologically, which is our goal as a company, is to give people the tools. And we started with information, we shifted to supplements, and now we're bringing back, there's a lot of information we're going to start publishing to help people in apps and other things. But the point is, we just fell in love with the effects of the enzymes. So we decided to build an enzyme product for people that consume a lot of protein. There wasn't anything on the market. And at that time, protein was huge. Like, it was the hottest new supplement. If you looked at a magazine, fitness magazine, probably 15% of the entire magazine was protein ads. But what we understand, and this is a key framework at BiOptimizers, is the 3 phases of nutrification. First is consumption, then it's conversion, and then it's assimilation. And most people just think about consumption, consuming good food, organic, high quality, nutrient dense, which is all important, of course. But if you don't have the right nutrients, which are enzymes and probiotics, for conversion, you're really wasting a lot of the value in the food. And then, even more important in some regards, is the assimilation, which is the utilization of the nutrients, the building, or using them as building blocks. In other words, you're either converting the nutrients into energy, storing it or burning it, or you've got building blocks, which are the amino acids and the essential fatty acids. So we basically built Masszymes because we wanted to convert a lot of the protein to amino acids. And then that product launch, it was a hit right away. And it's been, magnesium has overtaken it, but Masszymes has been our best-selling product for 15 years. So anyways, we rebranded to BiOptimizers about 5 years ago, and we decided at first to really focus on becoming the premier digestive health brand and build products and solutions that pretty much satisfy any either digestive issue or optimize people to superhuman digestion. No matter what diet they were on, which we've done. We got everything from keto to, you want to have a cheat meal, got Gluten Guardian, to Masszymes, which works with pretty much any diet, to fixing leaky gut, to, psychobiotics, which are the probiotics that create neurotransmitters. I mean, like I said, we've got the digestive line. Now we're evolving more to biological optimization, which is an endless game, which you're a big fan of and you do yourself. And we're excited to keep evolving. So that's my story in a nutshell. I know that was a lot of rambling, but that's as succinct as I can probably make it.
I love it. Yeah, thank you for sharing. And one thing that people always ask me is, why do I need supplements? Why can't I just eat healthy and, eat all organic food and I'll be all set? And for me, I studied sustainable food and farming in my undergrad. So that's what my bachelor's is in. And when you're studying soil health and you're looking at the difference in nutrition from let's just use lettuce right now compared to even 50 years ago, it's not even the same food, basically. The amount of nutrition is just completely depleted. And on top of that, where we're so apt to eat processed foods and cooked foods, we're not getting a lot of those enzymes. And I think that's one thing that I've really enjoyed about the BiOptimizers products, is that it fills in a lot of those gaps that people need. Because common complaint that people come to me with is, look, I eat healthy, I work out, I meditate, I do all these things, but I still don't feel great. And it's like, well, just like you said, if you can consume the food, but if you're not, converting the food and assimilating it, you're not really going to be getting much out of it. So with that being said, for let's say someone is not focused on bodybuilding or, gaining muscle mass, is Magnesium still a good option for them?
Absolutely. In fact, I think as you get older, and we've seen some amazing transformations, I think as you get older, Magnesium becomes absolutely critical. One of the basic reasons is just the importance of amino acids. Again, whether, of course, if you're somebody who's working out and you want to recover from workouts, we all know the importance of amino acids, but let's just take an ordinary person. One, even if you don't want to look like a bodybuilder, in my opinion, everybody should do resistance training, because lean muscle tissue, I'm not saying you got to get big, build muscle mass, but strength is one of the main determinants of both health span and lifespan. And I saw it with my own grandfather. My grandfather got hit by a car when he was 75. It was a hit and run. And then, I had, of course, some significant damage. And I just saw him decline from a cane to a walker to not being able to move to praying for death for multiple years. Like, he lived in our home. My father built an apartment for him. And I just saw firsthand, like, once you can't move, movement is critical. So, and even, in the last few years, we've heard like sitting is the new smoking.
Right.
It's really not moving is the new smoking. And the key, and this is a quick health tip, moving every 30 minutes is huge. Like I say, moving, like I can just stand up.
Right.
That alone is enough to solicit biological responses that prevent this degradation from happening. And sometimes I forget. I mean, I'll work like 10, 12 hours a day most days. And sometimes I forget to move and I feel it. And then, like, for example, before the podcast, I've got a rebounder. I rebounded for 5 minutes with a cool song, and, it changed my whole state in 5 minutes. But back to lean muscle mass, if you're not able to even just cross the street, not fall down, like, all of these things are critical. Plus, muscle tissue is a glucose storage unit. Back to the energy, back to carbs, right? Let's go back to that process. So you consume carbs, you convert the carbohydrates to glucose, and then you either store it in the liver, you store it in the muscle tissue, which is, again, if the more muscle tissue you've got, you can store more carbs, which make you less prone to blood sugar problems, or you store it as body fat, or you burn it, and muscle tissue is critical. I mean, so that's one reason for amino acids. The second one, and this is where I think I saw the biggest difference with people above 50, 60, 70s, is neurotransmitters. So neurotransmitters are produced with combinations of amino acids. And if your body's not breaking down the food and then transporting those proteins, those amino acids, through the intestinal tract and then assimilating them, and that neurotransmitter creation is an assimilation of amino acids, right? Then you're going to have brain issues. So again, I'm not making any claims here, but a very good friend of mine, he's 82 today, and he started on Magnesium, I think, when he was 78. He had been on antidepressants for decades. He got off. And again, there's no pharmacological effects directly from Magnesium. So what's happening is the body's able to produce neurotransmitters, which is huge. And then rebuilding organs. And then if we're talking about autophagy, and if we're talking about lifespan, the agglomeration of undigested proteins and unassimilated amino acids is believed to be one of the primary causes of death for supercentenarians. Basically, this protein is building up in the cells because you're not assimilating it, okay? And I can tell you more toxicity assimilation stories in a sec. And if you're not clearing that out, your cells stop functioning properly, which is a key driver of aging, which we talk about in our upcoming book, The Biological Optimization Blueprint. So taking Magnesium when you're fasting, whether it's an intermittent fast or a longer fast, will dramatically enhance the benefits and effects, because one, you'll clean out your intestinal tract. 2, you're going to start cleaning up, again, proteins, undigested or unassimilated aminos in the bloodstream, which is huge. So I don't care where you're at, like Magnesium is just one of those products that if you're a human, you can benefit from. And of course, the dosage and the protocols change, I think, based on what your goals are. So that's what shifts.
Awesome. So one big takeaway I just took from there is that you can take these while you're fasting, because I've always been under the impression, this is something you take before a meal, with a meal, after a meal, some bundle around a meal. But you're saying that there is benefit doing that in a fasted state. And so is that for a specific, like you said, a specific goal, or is that just in general, for health and longevity?
Well, again, we know that one of the key benefits of fasting is autophagy, which is the body essentially cleaning house, right? Breaking down undigested things or dangerous things. Basically, the body's cleaning house. Now, what is doing that? Again, what are enzymes? Enzymes are things that break down and then can reassemble and catalyze all these biological processes in the body. And part of that is, again, breaking a protein down to an amino or recombining aminos to build a protein, which, for an example, we have 7,000 plus peptides in the body. What's doing that? It's the enzymes, right? The enzymes reassembling aminos to create peptides that do specific functions. So if you're, again, taking the Magnesiums on an empty stomach, then they will do a very different job. Because again, if you're using it with food, they're going to break down the food, get utilized that way. If you take it on an empty stomach, they're going to clean house first in your intestinal tract, and 2, a lot of it's going to go into your bloodstream and have very autophagic enhancing effects, which is huge for fasting. So our protocol that Wade and I will do, and a lot of our clients will do, let's say like a normal day, somebody may be eating a 10, 12-hour window, wake up, a normal dose is like 5 caps, and then 5 caps before bed, assuming, again, you haven't eaten for 2-3 hours. And a lot of people report feeling a lot more energized in the morning.
Wow.
And we believe that. So again, I've been a sleep nut optimizer since the Zeo came out, which, man, I think that was like 10 years ago. That was like the Zeo was the predecessor to the Oura Ring. It was like a headband. And as a side note, they're far more accurate than an Oura Ring. But been optimizing sleep, and nothing still to this day crashes my sleep quality like eating food, I'd say 2 hours before bed. I mean, I try to go 4 hours now. But if you're going to bed with food in your stomach or in food in your intestinal tract, for most people, and I've seen a lot of sleep data, it crashes their sleep score. So I think one of the effects of Magnesiums is it just enhancing the digestion, relieving strain on the digestive system, speeding it up. So that could be one of the mechanisms why you're sleeping better and waking up more refreshed. But that's a basic day protocol. Now, let's say somebody wants to do an aggressive 72-hour fast. What we typically do is 30 caps a day split over 4 to 6 doses. And you do that, again, empty stomach. You're just drinking water, maybe some green tea or whatever you want to do to enhance your fast. Capex is another fasting enhancer, and it will activate AMPK, which is one of the benefits of that gets activated when you fast, AMPK being a nutrient sensor. And when your nutrients go down, AMPK goes up. And Capex has several ingredients that actually activates AMPK. So both of them are fasting enhancers, but from different angles. And yeah, a lot of people use these protocols when they do some extended fast or even intermittent fasting or morning and night fasting.
Awesome. Well, I want to dive into sleep, because that's a big area that I really am kind of a big nerd on too. Is sleep and stress are kind of the 2 areas that I like to dive into, because I feel like those are
2 of my favorites right there.
They're 2 of the biggest challenges that Americans face today. So, And knowing that from my own experience, having insomnia when I was in college and late high school, I kind of realized that a lot of that stemmed from stress. So I think the two are very much connected. And
Absolutely.
that's what I really like about the magnesium. And again, I was someone who was, still am eating very healthy, but I started to take the magnesium consistently, as in daily, about 3-4 weeks ago. So pretty recently. And day 2, I noticed I woke up like, whoa, that was a game changer. So I want to hear, obviously there's a lot of differences between the BiOptimizers Magnesium Breakthrough and other magnesium supplements. I'd love for you to just kind of break that down, what those differences are. I know that you have all 7 forms of magnesium, and what makes the Magnesium Breakthrough so effective at, mitigating stress and helping with sleep and recovery.
Yeah. So before we dive into Mag Breakthrough, let's talk about kind of how it came about. And I think that you nailed it. I think stress and sleep, when I think about what improved my quality of life and what could improve like almost everybody's quality of life the most in terms of their mood, their recovery, their brain function, those are the 2 things, like those are top of mind for me when I help people or coach people. And I think I've been on the dark side, the bad side of both of those. Like when I started tracking my sleep, my deep sleep score was 0 to 15 minutes a night. And so I've got another crazy, I love doing experiments. So I did experiment in my 20s, and that was my first burnout. What I did was I wanted to work 100 hours a week. I was totally obsessed with work. I was 80 hours a week in the gym. I was training twice a day still. That was after the bodybuilding stuff, but I just loved training. I was writing a book. I was recording an album, and I was studying marketing. I didn't have time for sleep. So I decided, you know what? I'm going to start cutting my sleep by 15 minutes a night every few days and try to function. Well, it was a really mind-blowing experiment. And I got down to 4 hours. And I was feeling good, but there was a lot of huge lessons. One was, if I did train twice a day and drank like 5-6 liters of water a day, I would crash instantly. Like my body was just on this really small band of resilience where if I got dehydrated slightly or didn't kind of boost my mitochondria with exercise, I would crash. But at 4 hours, I crashed absolutely. And then I read a book called Power Sleep and changed my whole position. It took me like 2 months to recover from that burnout. And I started sleeping 8-9 hours a night. But the truth was, and I saw the truth in the data when I started tracking, my sleep quality was total garbage. I would sweat 3-4 pounds of water a night. So my body was getting really hot under the sheets. I was sleeping with AC, wearing a mask. I guess it was like, I thought it was ticking the boxes, but I didn't. And then I got my testosterone tested. It was an absolute gutter. Got my body fat tested. It was sky high. And I just realized like sleep was the main issue. So I've invested about 50 grand in building my sleep setup, which I can go through and tested like one thing at a time. And these things compound. So I can kind of hit the big key things that I've seen move the needle the most. And I'll start with stuff that's actually inexpensive, that is super effective. And then we can get into more expensive gear and equipment. So one is total blackout. And here's the thing, people that wear masks, I was one of those guys. But the research says your skin has photoreceptors. So even if you're wearing a mask, you're still not pumping melatonin if you've got light coming in the room. And that's the key hormone to activate the prolactin cycle, which gives you all of the recovery benefits. So that's why my testosterone was in the gutter. My body fat was really high, despite me like training and, I thought I was eating good. So it was a real wake-up call. So total blackout. I have 2 layers of blackouts. Like you cannot see your hand. There's no micro lights on anything. It's just total absolute blackout. And even when I travel, I heard this tip on a Ben Greenfield podcast. I garbage bag the windows. right? It takes actually a while to
I've
take
done
them
that
all,
before
but
too.
if I'm staying at a place for a few days, I'll garbage bag the whole windows. The second one is temperature. And again, I was an AC guy. I live in Panama. It's a hot place. You need AC. But the game changer was the chili pad or the Uller, which is their updated version. I mean, if you're going to spend money, like the first thing you want to buy after blackouts or maybe before is the Uller or the chili pad. And, and I'd say it's more critical for guys. Like the hotter your metabolism is, or the more muscle mass you've got, the more critical it is. Because again, I was losing 4 pounds of water in 8 hours just sleeping. And I would wake up totally foggy and groggy. Of course, I'm dehydrated. I'm losing minerals. I'm losing water. And I know the negative effects of that. So now I'm losing like 1 pound, 1 1/3 pounds. So I'm way less dehydrated in the morning and feel like I feel good. The third thing is the mattress. And this was one of the big costs. Was I got a custom made mattress from Essentia, their Procore one, which is 10 grand. And it's perfectly customized from my side for me and the other side for my wife. And here's what I can say though about mattresses. And you don't need to spend 10 grand. They've got less expensive options, but one, get a memory foam. And because one of the sleep disruptors is uneven pressure. Right? If the blood gets trapped, let's say you're a side sleeper, and this is more important for side sleepers. If you're a side sleeper and you don't sleep in a memory foam, the blood will pool in your shoulder and arms, and then that's a signal for your body to start tossing and turning. Your body, will prevent blood from pooling. It's not good for it. So it's got defense mechanisms, which every time it tosses and turns, it's pulling you out of deep sleep. So the more even in a perfect sleep setup, like your body weight's completely perfectly distributed from feet to head. So there's no pressure points. And that's one of the issues with springs. Now with the memory foam stuff, the Essentia company, and again, this is not affiliate promotion. I have no deals with them, but I did my research and they're the only ones that I saw that uses tree sap to produce the memory foam. The other thing I'll say about the density, which matters, is the heavier you are or the shorter you are, the more you want to sink in. And if you're a side sleeper, even more so. So if somebody's really tall and not heavy and they're a back sleeper, less foam is better for them. But if you got wide shoulders, or like my wife who's Latino has got wide hips, you need to sink in. If you don't have that space to sink in, it's going to create those pressure points. And there's all these new mattress companies. I can't vouch for any of them because I haven't done my homework, but I would just say, get the right density for your body type, whatever that is. It's huge. Like that's a massive one. Now let's talk about, and let's kind of shift to stress. And I can get into more equipment and PEMFs, which I use multiple and tested a bunch, but those three things I just laid out are the big ones. Now, the other big one is really shifting your nervous system, and that leads to the magnesium conversation. So before I really, of course, like we've all heard of magnesium. We heard about magnesium in high school in chemistry class. We've heard, I read about it in the magazines 27 years ago. Like it's nothing new, but I don't think I understood how profound it was, and I didn't have the right protocols. And with any supplement, and this is a key point, and this is a pro point, and these is not prescriptions, and we sometimes we hold back on sharing this stuff publicly, but the protocols that you use with specific supplements make a massive difference on the effect. And I think magnesium is one of the greatest examples of that. So I hit another weird burnout, like about maybe like 3 years ago. And the best way I can explain it is I felt frazzled. And my definition of frazzled is when your nervous system is kind of trapped in sympathetic mode for too long. And your nervous system is like, it's really getting worn out and you don't feel good. And one of the things that happened when I was in that state was I couldn't drink coffee anymore. Like I'd drink a cup of coffee and it would just take the frazzledness from like a 5 to an 8. I felt horrible. I even asked Dave Asprey, I'm like, bro, like, is there any hacks? He's like, stop drinking coffee. That was a suggestion. And I didn't understand the nervous system and the stress response like I do now. But 3 different health experts, one being Charles Poliquin, another one being Mercola, and another one being a friend of mine who's incredibly high level of consciousness, spiritual man, all said the same thing coming from different perspectives, which was high dose magnesium combined with EFAs is the key to the nervous system. So I started ramping up magnesium dosages. I went from 1 gram to 2.
Can you just define EFAs for anyone listening that's not familiar?
Yeah, it's essential fatty acids, going back to building blocks. Essential fatty acids are critical building blocks for the body. Now, if you're eating the right seafood or algae, you can get some from there, or you can take some in pill form. Wild salmon's a great source. Certain algae have a lot of EFAs for vegetarians or vegans. And they're critical. They're critical, and they're critical for the nervous system. In my opinion, they're a critical part of coating the myelin sheet, which coats the nerves. And I think when you feel frazzled, that myelin sheet is getting worn out. And when it gets worn out, you're frazzled. That's my theory, okay? And I've done some digging and research on that. That seems to be the case. But back to mag. So I started going from 1 gram to 2 grams to 3 grams of mag to 4 grams to 5 grams. And I mean, within 30 days, I felt completely like a different human being. And then within 60 days, I shifted my nervous system. Like my baseline went from fight, flight, or flee, okay, freeze, to a complete shift in a calm Zen state. Like that was baseline. I'm talking waking up, drinking a cup of coffee, and it was mind blowing. And that's when I went to 4 or 5 grams a day. Like I was just in a Zen state just by getting to the optimal dose of magnesium in my body. And there was a lot of EFAs as well, as a side note. Now, when we started looking at mag and looking at the research, it was very clear that different magnesiums, because magnesiums are bound chemically with different compounds. And that's what creates things like magnesium citrate or malate, it'd be malic acids or et cetera, et cetera. And they hit different parts of the body. So what we just started doing naturally, I remember I had like 5 different bottles of mag. And, it's a nuisance. I mean, I love living a frictionless life, like, opening 4 or 5 bottles. And then the other thing I didn't understand looking at the products was nobody was really looking at the cofactors. So long story short, we built what we believe is the best magnesium product ever built, which is 7 mags, and it has the cofactors. Now, some of the cofactors people are familiar with, but the one that I think is the most powerful is the monoatomics. Now, monoatomics is a group of elements that include the platinum group elements, silver, gold, and these are usable. Going back to assimilation, these are assimilatable minerals, trace minerals. And we have one of our geniuses that works with us. He is one of the world's top monoatomic guys on the planet. I mean, we've tested different blends depending on the effect. And what the monoatomics are doing, it's helping, the cell is incredibly complex, and there's all these processes that utilize different trace minerals. So if you have the trace minerals, it just works better, along with, of course, B6, which is another key cofactor. And it's a cofactor going to sleep. The B6 and the magnesiums are a cofactor in producing serotonin, which then produces melatonin. So if you take, I take 3 caps, some people take 4 caps, some people take 2 caps, about an hour or 90 minutes before you want to go to bed, it's going to help kickstart a serotonin production and then melatonin. And that's one of the, and of course, shifting the nervous system. It's like a 2-prong thing. There's the serotonin, melatonin side, and then there's the parasympathetic shift, which is so key because, again, the people that are insomniacs, they're stuck in sympathetic mode, right? They're stuck in fight, flight, or freeze. And you're producing adrenaline, you're producing cortisol, your beta brain waves are out of control. So you need to shift the nervous system to parasympathetic, lower your brain waves to alpha and then theta and then boom, delta, which I've done a lot of neurofeedback. And it's so critical. I mean, the people that can't shut down their brains, that are stuck in fight, flight, or freeze, their sleep quality is total garbage, and it wrecks them. Like, again, when I started investing, like the reason I spent 50 grand on sleep was I realized, like, what's going to give me a better ROI? Like, yeah, I could buy a car, which gets me to point A, point B, which I can use Uber, and, we have a couple cars here. But my point is, like, why people spend 50 grand on a car just for ego and show, but they would like shake their heads and balk at spending 50 grand on a sleep, which would probably improve their lifespan, health span, muscle mass, body fat, brain function, which then for me as an entrepreneur translates to executive functioning and performance, which translates to better business performance. So anyways, that's my rant on sleep and mag. And it's so critical to get that stuff in check.
Let me ask you this, because you mentioned it does well with EFAs, essential fatty acids. So, but you also said that you don't like to eat a few hours before bed, and you mentioned that magnesium is best 60 to 90 minutes before bed. Is it more just making sure in your overall diet that you're consuming these EFAs?
Yeah, and I can share the EFA protocol, which is going to blow minds. Most people shock. And, I want to kind of open the doors a little bit, kind of behind the scenes at some of the issues that we need to be concerned with as supplement companies. One is prescriptions and dosages. So a lot of times what you see on the bottle is not the optimal dose or the optimal protocol. And of course, always consult with your doctor, or ideally like a naturopathic doctor or a really functional medicine doctor, people that understand dosage and can look at your blood work and understand the difference between optimal and average. A lot of times, like, most doctors want, okay, you're average, great, get out of here. Well, what if you want to be superhuman? Like, what if you want excellence, right? So that's what we're about. And a lot of times with nutrients, depending on your goals, how much exercise you do, male, female, age, muscle mass, exercise, all genetics. Genetics is huge too. I mean, we all have mutations. And if you've never worked with a nutrigenomic expert, there's a lot of holes and big considerations that most people are not aware of. And, that's going to probably get solved with using AI, machine learning, software in the next 2-3 years. But for the time being, you really want to hire someone that can go through your genes, look at your mutations. And for example, most people are either over-methylated, under-methylated. What if you've got the D3 mutation, which prevents you from converting D3 to vitamin D? People think they're consuming vitamin D. It's a precursor. I mean, again, I could go on and on that. But the point is that if ideally you've got the team, the Jedi Council, to look at who you are, what you're doing, your blood work, your hormones, and then figure out, depending what you want to do, the right dose. And sometimes, like the magnesium protocol, EFA, that I'm outlining, it's not a permanent thing. You load up, you get optimized, and then you go to maintenance. And there's a lot of nutrients like that you go from deficient to optimized, and then, okay, let's go to maintenance. And EFAs and magnesium, because, with every nutrient, there's an LD50, right? You could kill yourself with caffeine, with water, etc. So, you got to be conscious. But the point is, on the EFAs, it was about 4 grams of EFAs per gram of mag. So when I got to 5 grams of mag, I was at around 20 grams of EFAs, which was a lot of pills, a lot of krill oil, a lot of combos. But man, I mean, it was just transformative. So it's a great protocol for anybody who's, I think, wants to repair the nervous system. That's my opinion. That's the stack. And of course, you can get it from a lot of seafood and, again, algae, things like E3 Live have a lot of, and E3 Live is DHA, which for vegetarians is really absolutely critical for their brain function. Again, for every diet that you do, going back to another key point, and I know you wanted to talk about this. So Wade's vegetarian and has been for about 2 decades. I've been doing keto more on than off since I'm 16 years old, which is 26 years. So what I can tell you is that every diet, whether it's your keto or vegan or, carnivore, every diet that you do, you need to look at your trace minerals. Which ones are you likely to be deficient in? And that's where you start supplementing, right? Again, you want to patch the holes in your that are built into your diet. Like, for an example, with vegans, they need to be concerned and focused on amino acids, proteins. Very easy for them. Most vegetarians lose 20, 25 pounds of lean body mass in the first 6 months. It's not a healthy thing. You don't want to lose lean body mass for, again, all the reasons we talked about earlier. And the main reason is they're just protein deficient. They're not creating complete proteins and they're going catabolic. Anyways, back to mag. So we built the best mags at 7 mags. It's got chelate, citrate, biglycinate, which is a really great one for sleep. So malate, that one what's amazing too is there's a lot of data and research, and we cite a lot of it on the site around depression. Again, we're not saying treats depression. You can read the research for yourself, but it's there's a lot of fascinating research. Aspartate, which seems to be a really key one for electricity. And your body's an electrical machine as much as it is biochemical. In fact, like enzymes are kind of like electrical in nature. So the aspartate is a big one for that. And you see some really good research on heart and other utilization of other trace minerals. The taurate is a really good one for the brain and the heart. And the orotates, and again, it's not conclusive, but based on what we were looking at, the orotates have a really high level of bioavailability for minerals. So that one is a great one for recovery from workouts and performance. So what's amazing with mag, again, and there's hundreds and hundreds of research papers on this. It's like whether you're looking to improve exercise performance, both as a workout or, recovery from workouts, it's incredible. Volleyball players, swimming, athletes, weightlifting, it improves. Again, can't make claims here, but depression is huge. Diabetes, mind-blowing research. Blood pressure, migraines, insulin resistance. Again, it just goes on and on. PMS. So again, we can make disease claims, but what we can tell you is if you read the research, and we have a lot of it on the main site, you will be blown away by what mag can do for you. And again, no one has really combined all of these mags with the enhancers, the cofactors, in the way that we have. And in our opinion, it blows away any other mag. And that's the testimonial we get. Usually it's just, yeah, I was on mags, but, and I kind of experienced that as I was combining more and more mags. It just felt better and better, but not as good as I do with Mag Breakthrough. So.
Well, Matt, I think that really makes me recognize is I remember seeing some studies, and these were, I think, from 2016, that over 80% of Americans are deficient in magnesium. And then I think it's over 95%, are only getting the minimum effective dose. So like you said, maybe you're getting the average amount of magnesium, but you're not optimizing it. And I think that's where you make this list of, correlations. Again, we can't make claims, but correlations to these. And I think it's because, so many people are deficient in this essential part of life, this essential part of health, stress, and recovery. And so on that note, I mean, obviously we just talked about magnesium as, a huge impact that can make. Magnesium, arguably maybe an even bigger impact on people's health. What would you say if you had to put the trifecta of BiOptimizers? What would you say would be the third piece to that little triangle there?
I'm going to give you two triangles.
All right, so, we got a square.
I'm going to give you one for digestion and one for nervous system and brain. So for digestion, like this is kind of like the trifecta, and it's magnesium, HCl breakthrough, and P3OM, and it's a mind-blowing. So we have a lab in Bosnia that we just built in combination with the Birch University in Sarajevo, where we're doing nonstop tests on probiotics, and we can talk a little bit about some of that data.
Yeah, could you just define what P3OM is and what HCl is, just for anyone listening?
Sure, yeah, absolutely. So HCl breakthrough is a hydrochloric acid supplement enhanced with some enzymes, of course, nowhere near as much as magnesium, and then some minerals. And what it's designed to do is replace the lost stomach acid, which declines as we age. And that's a major cause of bloating and gas. It's a critical piece. Also, hydrochloric acid protects you against parasites. And going back to protocols, working with an ND, we found out I had a parasite. And you can get parasites like eating the healthiest food in the world. Like, they're all over. You know what I mean? Like they can be in any piece of food, any vegetable, fruit. Like it's not like I ate at McDonald's and got a parasite. No, I ate a piece of fish or I ate a weird vegetable or whatever. I mean, it can happen to anyone. Point is, I killed it with HCl breakthrough, and it was a very high dose for 60 days because you got to kill the eggs. But the point is, as far as stomach acid, that's one of its functions. It helps kills pathogens. So if we look at the stages of digestion, first thing, right, you start chewing. It tells your brain what food it is. Your body will, if it's a carb, produce amylase in the mouth, which starts the conversion process, or start producing lipases and proteases in the stomach. And then after a little bit, it releases hydrochloric acid. But most people, their hydrochloric acid, usually after 30, 35, as with most things, starts declining. And that's the power of HCl breakthrough. So it's to replace that, for some people can be as profound or more than magnesium. Like if somebody's problem is a lack of stomach acid, HCl breakthrough will be more effective than magnesium. Of course, magnesium will help, but if it's stomach acid, that's the issue. Now, P3OM is of course, we've all heard of probiotics. The yogurt companies have done an incredible job marketing the concept, but probiotics are very different in effects. And what we did is we started with what's called L-plantarum. If you research L-plantarum, there's all kinds of research, but we put it through a patented process. And bacteria are just like human beings. They respond to hormetic stressors. So if you put it through a gauntlet and you ramp up the stress to the point where only 5% survive, which is what we do. So it's tougher than a Navy SEAL boot camp or Hell Week. That 5%, one, they're the toughest, and two, they go to a different level of resilience and capabilities. And we've proven that in the lab in Bosnia. We've proven that when we try to kill them multiple different ways, they are incredibly resilient compared to every other strain we've tested. And we're not just testing P3OM, we're testing every single strain in every product plus other strains. The other thing that we knew, which is mind-blowing, is that it's undefeated against food poisoning. And we knew that just from practical experience. Myself, multiple times, when you travel and you eat at different places, you will get food poisoning eventually. And it's undefeated. I'm talking about one time I was with my wife on the floor feeling like I was going to die. You know what I mean? Like when it's that bad, food poisoning, which, fortunately is gone in 36 hours. And I just started taking handfuls of P3OM, usually 10, 15. And then 30 minutes later, another 10, 15, and it's undefeated every single time. So it's a high dose. Now, what we proved in the lab is that it's incredibly effective. Like we put these trays with agar, and we put different bad bacteria and good bacteria. So with the bad bacteria, we put the ones that cause food poisoning, and we put P3OM next to it and against it to see if it would kill it, and it did. It killed most of the food poisoning strains. The other thing that just came out this week, like I just had a meeting with them on Monday, which is awesome. I did not know this. Now, the thing we know about it is that it's proteolytic. What does proteolytic means? It means it breaks down protein into amino acids just like Magnesium. So there's synergy on the proteolytic effect, which is huge. Again, that's how we break proteins down to amino acids. There's synergy between P3OM and Magnesium. But here's what came out on the latest round of research. We tested feeding it. We're feeding it different things. And this was the only strain that did it. When we put gluten, when we fed P3OM gluten, it was the only strain out of all the strains we've tested that ate the gluten. It was breaking down the gluten. So we didn't know this. We got gluten guarding, which of course is really designed for that. It's got specific enzymes. So now we know that P3OM is synergistic with Magnesium for just proteins in general, and it's synergistic for pizza and bread days with gluten guardian. We did not know that until literally last Monday. So that's the digestive trilogy right there. Magnesium's, HCl breakthrough, P3OM. Any other questions on that stack?
I'd just like to hear your protocol for HCl. That was one I know there's a lot of different philosophies, like depending on, you start with 1, then go to 2, go to 3, go to 4 until you kind of feel that acidic buildup. And then that's 1 too much, and then you take 1 less. I've heard that philosophy. I'd like to hear what yours is.
Yeah. I've never hit that point. And like when I was doing the parasite protocol, it was 30 caps a day, which I know sounds crazy. I never had that effect. Now, I typically take 2 caps per meal. A meal's typically like 800 to 1,000 calories. I don't eat that many meals a day. So 2 caps, like the stack is, again, with like a 800 to 1,000 calorie meal. Let's say cut this in half, you're eating 500 calories, or doubled it if you're eating 2,000 calorie meals. But the baseline for 1,000 calorie meal is like 5 caps of Magnesiums, 3 caps of P3OM, and 2 HCLs. That can digest 1,000 calories incredibly efficiently and effectively. Of course, if you go to 2,000 calories, and going back to people that work out or want to gain weight, the big challenge becomes food consumption. Like I'm friends with Ben Pakulski. He told me, man, I was friends with him when he was competitive. It's like, dude, the food is the hard part, not the brutal workouts. It's the food. And, this stack is just magical for enhancing that effect. So that's the combo.
I love that. Yeah, I think that one challenge that I have when it comes to in terms of, building muscle is definitely the eating factor. And, there's a lot of research out there that goes to show that the people that have lower calorie diets, tend to have longer longevity. But I also attribute that to, they're people that are eating more also aren't digesting it very well. And we're eating a lot of processed food in those research. So that's where I think something like this protocol, if you are looking to gain weight, that is probably one of the best, if not the best protocols for consuming a lot of food, but still, having that effect where your body's actually digesting. It's not bogging down with all these, all this crap load of calories that's getting stuck in there. So just from your experience, for someone is, an average person is, just trying to get their gut health back,
Sure.
what would you say is the best place to start on top of obviously eating organic food, drinking spring water? What would you say is the best place to start for the average person working a 9 to 5, trying to just get a little gut health?
Leaky Gut Guardian. So, and we've just been blown away again by what's coming out of the lab. So this is a relatively new product, and it's producing effects on biofilm building that no other thing we're testing comes close to. And it's incredibly effective against what's called gram-negative bacteria, which are different than the gram-positive bacteria. So we know, so in other words, it's killing other known bad bacteria that are different than P3OM. The P3OM is killing the gram-positive bacteria, and leaky gut is killing the majority of the gram-negative bacteria. So that's a big synergy. But let's talk about biofilm, which is basically this layer of cells which coats your intestinal tract. Now, most people, we don't know the number, right? We don't know, but a lot of people, let's just say that, have these micro holes in their intestinal lining. And that's where it's believed that a lot of autoimmune disease, a lot of just health issues are coming from. And especially if you eat, like let's say you've got leaky gut and you consume A1 protein, which is like the majority of the cow milk and cow products you come from. And let's say that you're not genetically built to break down A1 protein. You're going to have issues. You're going to feel, inflammatory markers are going to go up. Like if you did blood work, even 2 days, 3 days later, you'd see the effects in your blood work. So that's where a lot of people are at. They've got leaky gut, again, because of the way they're eating or the lack of feeding their gut wall. Because some strains are transient, and I remember reading about this like years and years ago. So some probiotics are transient, meaning that they go through, they clean house, they multiply. Okay, that's a key point. Probiotics multiply, but then, if they run out of food, they just basically kind of leave the body. That's normal. But there's what we want to do is build biofilm in conjunction with that. So again, Leaky Gut Guardian for people that, let's say, have gut issues, like intestinal gut issues, is the product. And what it does, it eliminates a lot of, again, hard to defeat bacteria, and then it helps rebuild the biofilm, the intestinal wall, based on what we're seeing in our research, which is huge. So it's a combination of specific strains that rebuild the gut wall and specific strains that are really good for immune systems. There's a lot of immune benefits to this product. The key ingredient is called IgY Max, which is incredible for immunoglobulins. I'm just going to end there, but again, profound effects on immunoglobulins. And then again, it just triggers, and what we're testing right now is just, what builds biofilm. Like we're actually testing foods and mediums and strains, and nothing's come close to that combination that we have in Leaky Gut Guardian. So it tastes incredible too. There's a vegetarian vanilla, and a carnivore chocolate. The difference is the collagen in the carnivore chocolate, but you can throw these in shakes or water or nut milk or whatever. It tastes amazing. And if you take it in conjunction with any other probiotic, including P3OM or anything else you're taking, that strain will multiply a lot more and potentially become part of the biofilm. So it's an incredible kind of base to use with other probiotics. And then one of the big tests that we've been doing, we've done it with both leaky gut, P3OM, Cogni, is does it kill good bacteria? So the same test, like the same design in the agar, we test if it's going to kill the good bacteria. And our belief always was that it didn't. There's almost like an intuitive intelligence to bacteria to kill the bad ones and not kill the good ones. And we see that with a lot of different systems in the body. And, it's truly amazing. And that's what we saw. They're not killing the good guys, and they are killing the majority of the bad guys. So yeah, that's a really cool product, and it's awesome. So I love Leaky Gut Guardian. And again, it's a great base for other probiotics to use with.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm big on probiotics. And one thing I want to ask you, if in terms of maybe it's a philosophy or research, I personally try to cycle through different probiotics, so I'm not overloading one strain. Do you think there is, ever too much? Like, let's say you're doing one strain of probiotics, you think there is, because we have thousands of different strains in our body. What's your thought on, cycling through different probiotics?
Yeah. First of all, I think your core principle of cycling things is wise and smart. It's true for a lot of things, It's true, especially when you're dealing with receptors. Anything that downregulates receptors or hits an axis, like a hormone axis, you've got to cycle in general. Okay. Otherwise, you've got to start countering the counter effects, and it becomes a slippery slope quick. And with probiotics, you don't have receptors, but you do have, the proliferation of them. So the truth is, we have more questions than answers. That's the short answer. Now, what we are looking at and what we're getting into is using probiotics to create specific biological effects. And the best example of that is cognibiotics, right? So I started looking at psychobiotics. And psychobiotics are the probiotic strains that produce neurotransmitters. And the two big neurotransmitters they produce is 95% of your dopamine, which we can talk about dopamine. If you don't have dopamine, you are screwed as far as getting things done, learning, drive. Like, you become a sloth, right? You're done, you're cooked. And we probably all experienced kind of dopamine just burnout and felt that effect. It sucks. If you've ever felt like highly motivated and then you hit this point where you just have no motivation to do the thing you were motivated for, your dopamine's either depleted or your receptors are just tired. They're kind of burnt out. Serotonin, 50% of it's produced by the gut. And again, it's the inverse, right? It's 95% of serotonin, 50% of the dopamine. And if you're not producing enough serotonin, you're screwed. I mean, people that are antidepressants, essentially, that's their problem, and I've, partying back in the day, a long time ago, I know what serotonin depletion feels like, and it sucks, right? It's horrible. And in my spare time, I work with addicts and alcoholics just to do service, not professionally. And I have people that I work with that's their problem. And of course they're on antidepressants, so they're at that level. But, it's like, if you don't have serotonin, either you're an asshole, people that use cocaine or an Adderall, they get so much dopamine and they don't have the serotonin, and that's what makes them that super sharp, hard edge driving, I don't care about you, I'm going to get shit done no matter what attitude. Highly effective, but not good for relationships or EQ. And that's where serotonin comes in. I mean, and where serotonin is the reason, one of the main drivers why people eat sugar. The driver behind sugar addiction, a lot of it is serotonin, and dopamine too. You get a big, if you eat your favorite cheat meal or whatever, thing you're hooked on, massive dopamine, massive serotonin. So we can achieve that with giving our gut the right psychobiotics, which we did. Plus, we have one of the top Chinese herbal specialists in the world that we work with, and he built a special herbal formula that kicks in right away. Like, you feel these herbs in hours. Like, it's not days. Like, you feel the herbs first. And then if you try like a week on Cogni, a week off, a week on, a week off, which is a great way to test things, kind of cycling on and off, I mean, virtually everyone reports, wow, there's a significant difference in my mood and just how I feel and just how the day is, you know, my experience of the day. And, you know, I've done neurotransmitter tests, and I tend to be serotonin deficient, like probably again, genetics, you know, again, all these stuff come down, a lot of it comes down to genetics, how you're metabolizing things or assimilating things. And I'm serotonin deficient in general. So for me, people like me, it's huge. It's a profound, profound supplement. And back to the second triangle, we talked about the digestive trilogy. The second triangle is Cogni, which we just talked about. Capex, which is more affecting mitochondria production and assimilation of fatty acids. So there's a big energy boost from that. And it's a adrenaline-free, non-taxing to, again, your adrenal energy boost. You know, it's about 15-20% boost for 8 to 10 hours, I would say, which is, again, not as much as maybe a coffee is, but it lasts way longer than a coffee, and there's no adrenal burnout. And it's a great kind of pre-workout as well. I think that, especially if you're on keto or paleo, or you're eating a lot of high-fat foods, it's the Magnesiums for keto. That's kind of how it started. Then it evolved into this mitochondrial enhancer. So if you take like 4 or 5 caps first thing in the morning, again, empty stomach, that's where it's going to have the mitochondrial energy boost. And if you take it with food, 1 or 2 caps is enough. It's very, very potent. You know, there's a ton of lipase in there. It's enough to break down the fats of a high-fat meal. 2 caps max. And again, if it's a lower calorie meal, 1 cap. For dinner, 1 cap, so you don't get too energized for sleep. When I first got the samples, I didn't know how strong it would be. So I like starting with high dosages of things just to see what the effects are, kind of like, let's amplify the results to be clear. So I started, I think the first day with 6 caps. It was like 2 or 3 in the afternoon. I had a really hard time falling asleep. I thought, well, that's rare. Let me repeat the process. I did. I took 5 caps, I think at like 3 p.m. And I remember that night, I looked at my Oura scores the next day. It took me 3 hours of sleep latency, 3 hours to fall asleep, where it's usually 5 to 15 minutes. So I knew it had profound effects on mitochondria and energy, because again, there's no stimulants. There is a microdose of 7-keto-DHEA, which activates enzymes in the liver, which do give you a boost, but it's more profound than that. So that's the second piece of the kind of brain stack. And then the third thing I would say is Primergen M and V. That's one of our oldest products. Like, we've been selling that now for over 5 years, and we probably do a horrible job selling it in general, but people that have tried it really love it. And what's cool about it, it's one of those products that will take your coffee, your bulletproof coffee, another level, take your shakes to another level. You can incorporate it in tea. You can just drop it in your mouth or drink it in water. It goes back to monoatomics. Especially the Primergen M, and M stands for minerals. It's got 74 trace minerals that are highly balanced, and that's key. You don't want, just with the macro minerals, you don't want your micros to be out of balance. So, it's highly optimized, and it has fulvic and humic acid, which is how a lot of the minerals, this from farming, that the plants absorb a lot of nutrients. So that's why we put it in there, to enhance the cellular absorption, again, the assimilation of the trace minerals. And then the V is super high in vitamin Bs, like very high dose. It's a blend of Bs. That one, you get an energy kick from it. And if you put the M and the V in your bulletproof coffee, you will get an amplification of the effects. You got to find the right dose for you. But I think, in my opinion, you're absorbing more caffeine, more of the nutrients in the coffee. And then the coffee and the butter is enhancing the absorption of the V and the M. So there's a synergy that I've found mixing that a fatty coffee, or with a shake. So let's talk about the perfect meal. Okay. This is a key concept. And we are about to re-release, like we're in the final, it's been a long journey, test for a re-release of Protein Breakthrough. So Protein Breakthrough, we were selling organic, unflavored, unsweetened hemp protein about 15 years ago. It tasted like dirt, smelled like a barn. We've never tried pure hemp protein. It's a little rough, but we sold tens of thousands of pounds of it. Because hemp, and again, I'm a keto guy, but if you look at hemp from a macronutrient perspective, the carbs, the proteins, the fats, the essential fatty acids, the fiber, the phytonutrients, it's almost a perfect food. Like I don't know how you'd improve it, you know? So we've always been big believers. Anyways, long story short, it's a blend of plant proteins. We're working on a keto blend as well. And the flavor is amazing. We've got this berry blend. It's, I think, 7 different berries, including beet. And then we got a cacao, a raw organic cacao blend. That's incredible. The flavor is amazing, the blendability. But let's talk about the perfect meal. Again, not just from the problem in a lot of ways in nutrition is people are stuck on macronutrients. They're stuck on protein, carbs, and fats, or stuck on, even worse, just looking at calories. Of course, that stuff matters and matters a lot, but let's talk about micronutrients. Let's talk about trace nutrients. Let's talk about phytonutrients. And in our opinion, let's talk about enzymes and probiotics, because that's as much a part of nutrition. So the perfect meal, and this is the ultimate like intro workout shake. Like I'm going to do one as soon as we finish. I'm going to go work out in about 90 minutes. What I drink is Protein Breakthrough. And again, you can blend whatever protein you want. Okay. Or in protein. And even if you're keto, and this is a pro tip, throw fruits in there. Why? Because if you're fat adapted, carbs become a performance enhancing substance. That was a great, we interviewed Dom D'Agostino and he said that. And I'm like, yes, because you can go dual fuel. I could talk about dual fuel if you want, but you can run on carbs and ketones. And for workouts, carbs are better. Like if you're training really hard, and I've looked at the research, and I'm as fat adapted as you get. And I'll just give you an example. We were testing a blood sugar product that's coming out. So I had to eat about 250 to 300 grams of carbs a day, like white rice, sweet potatoes, popcorn, like high glycemic, high carbs. And there's a huge revelation that I'd never seen before. And I know I'm super fat adapted, but I didn't know what my ketones would be. So I was kind of measuring my ketones, and I stayed at 0.3. Then I went to 0.4 on like day 7 or 8. And then I measured at 0.5 ketones on the blood measurements after 10 days of eating 250 to 300 grams of carbs a day, which was mind blowing. I didn't know that was possible. And long story short, for people that are keto or carnivore, well, in carnivore, it's even, again, more strict, but keto, don't be afraid to use, 40 to 80 grams of carbs, depending how hard your workout is. If you're training squats, legs, sprinting, like high intensity, go to 80 grams. If you're training like a smaller workout, arms, chest, like 40 is probably enough. Now you blend that with the protein of your choice, whatever protein you want. Now here's where we take it to the perfect meal. First thing is like 1 or 2 caps of Magnesiums and 1 cap of P3OM. We're opening the caps. We've been doing this for a long time. It's a game changer. And if you put enough caps, and we've tested the dose. Like I started at 5 caps, and within 30 minutes, your shake will taste like amino acids. It's gone from protein to amino acid, makes it a little rough on the flavor. But 2 caps of Magnesiums and 1 cap of P3OM is about perfect. Then you drop the Primergen V and M. Why? Because you want all the trace minerals. And I always put salt in everything. Why? Because again, all the trace minerals. Like I put salt in my water, I put salt in my coffee, put salt in my shakes. And not enough to taste it, but I want more minerals. And that's it, and you can sip that throughout your workout. What's happening is you're drinking pre-digested amino acids, and you're getting a steady stream of glucose and fructose. And by the way, 50-50 is the optimal blend for uptake during a workout. They've actually tested the kind of the pure 100% one or the other, but 50-50 for some reason seems to be better for glucose uptake. And that's it, like you've got everything you need to digest, consumption, put some good stuff in your shake, convert it, and then assimilate it. Like you've got everything you need to go through that entire sequence. And that's kind of like the perfect meal in my opinion. Like this is what I'm going to do in about 30 minutes from now.
Well, I know what products I'm going to be ordering next after this one. So I'm going to try that perfect meal hopefully next week, and I'll report back to you. Well,
awesome.
And Matt, so this has been a lot of incredible information. I've got a whole page of notes here. I'm super excited for everyone to listen to this.
Yeah.
As it relates to BiOptimizers, where is BiOptimizers going? What is the vision? What's the mission? What do you see BiOptimizers being, 5 years from now?
Love that question. It's a question I wish more people would ask. I mean, our vision, our mission is to end physical suffering by activating biologically optimized health in people. And, we have this framework called the BiOptimization spectrum. And I'm going to start at the bottom of it, which is death, and before that's disease, right? So people that are not optimizing their health are multiplying the odds and chances of them declining to a disease state and then potentially dying decades ahead of what they could if they were going the other direction. Now, in the middle of the spectrum is what most people think of as normal. Hey, I'm normal. Well, normal just means like normal health is just the absence of disease. Well, it's better than disease, but there's better than that, which is excellence, and for those of us that are probably all your listeners or, everybody that's into biohacking and biological optimization, we're striving for that, or we're there. And from there, there's superhuman. So our goal is to move people from like kind of death to disease and disease to normal and normal to excellence and then excellence to superhuman, and build every product, every solution, not just supplements. We're releasing a book in 2 months that we've been working on for a very long time. And it's kind of the blueprint. I mean, covers a lot of the stuff plus a lot more. It's kind of like the foundational points of biological optimization, including like sleep, nervous system, the 3 phases of nutrification, movement, like the 10 ages, the 10 drivers of aging, and so on and so forth. We're building apps. So we've got a whole engineering team we just brought in, and our goal is to build better sensors, better feedback tools. Cause I'm so big on feedback loops. Like the Oura Ring, which I'm wearing right now, is awesome. It gives me a 24-hour feedback loop. For those of you that have ever pricked their fingers 10 times a day, like I just was for the blood sugar product, it sucks. And and here's a big thing about testing blood work. Snapshots are a fraction of the value of a constant stream of data. Like I love data. And with a constant stream, you get context. With a snapshot, you get a micro piece of the picture. So for an example, you wake up and you test your blood glucose and, whatever, you're 90. Okay, it's cool. You're within range. But, if you were testing throughout the day, you're learning from every meal. You're learning from stress responses. You'll see your glucose spike actually with stress, whether it's workout or otherwise. So you start learning. And, so we're going to be building a lot of apps around that, nutrition apps. We've got 3 cookbooks coming out. 2 of them are finished. Like we're hiring some of the best chefs, in these different categories. We got a carnivore cookbook, we got a paleo cookbook, and a vegan superfood cookbook. They're just absolutely world-class. So we just got the first drafts of the carnivore and the paleo that's coming out. We've got coaching coming out in January, and we're launching with weight loss coaching, primarily because that's where my heart is. And going back to my friend and even myself, like, I've always struggled growing up with being chubby and being called fat at times. And it was painful, you know what I mean? So it was a big driver for me to start working out. And I know how life-changing it can be. So really excited. I mean, that's something we've been working on for years. On the supplement side, we got protein breakthrough. Again, we got the berry, the chocolate, and we've got a blood sugar formula, which is a game changer. And again, it's not going back to like, from disease to normal and normal to optimized and excellence. Even if you don't have high blood sugar, if you have something that is driving more glucose to your muscle tissue, improving the glycolytic pathways. Like in the testing, I broke 13 records. I got an app called Trainerize where it tells you if you break records in two workouts, like 8 and 5 on this new stack. And by the way, we tested 6 different formulas. We had multiple people, including Dom D'Agostino, for those of you that know who he is, a true legend. He's one of our new scientific advisors at BiOptimizers. And it's incredible. So that's coming out. We're excited about that. And then we're working, we have not announced it. I think this is like a world first. I don't think I've ever said this publicly, or no, we haven't said anything, but we've been working. So it's part of our kind of our secret sauce of BiOptimizers is finding geniuses. Like that's always been my strategy as an entrepreneur. Going back to some of my first products, working with the Navy SEAL, we were creating products together, finding geniuses and then co-creating products with them. And we have 5 geniuses we work with. There's the monatomic guy, the Chinese herb guy, an enzyme guy, a probiotic team like we talked about, and then a new guy. And this new guy, I mean, it's kind of like a dream come true. Like if you would have asked me to dream of the greatest person we could find, he'd be it, for 2 reasons. One, greatest extractor I have ever found. And, so part of creating ingredients and supplements is you take plants and you start extracting, right? Take for example, CBD. That's a simple one most people are familiar with. You're extracting that from hemp usually. But that's true for every plant. Now there's good ways to extract, there's harsh chemical ways to extract, and then there's his way to extract, which is like 7, 8 levels deep. And what I can tell you is I've never, ever, ever found anything close to the potency and effectiveness. And the second thing he's world-class at is understanding the brain. So what we're launching soon is going to be kind of like invitation only VIP access to our best customers. So you'll be one of them, is customized brain stacks. And I've been a huge fan of nootropics. So we're getting into brain optimization first through completely customized, personalized brain stacks for you. And we're talking about building like your stack and building the pills one at a time with a human being based on blends and combos that we know work for a lot of different parameters. You fill out a questionnaire, we look at it, and we have good ideas what your deficiencies are, what your goals are, what you want, and we build it for that. And then you give us feedback and we optimize. So it gets better and better. And we can do incredible things to give you 12-hour clean focus, no downside, no weirdness the next day, no down regulation of your normal levels. Like, you go from kind of normal to superhuman back to normal. And that was one of my issues with things like modafinil and a lot of other brain drugs, which I've experimented with heavily, is like modafinil. And it does show up in my genetics. So it's not everybody like this, but I kind of felt like a down the next day, which I never liked. I felt an up on the day, but the next day I felt I was paying a price. I don't want stuff that I have to pay a price. You know what I mean? Like, so all of our stuff is built that way, and it's such a game changer. I mean, you thought you felt what you've tried. I mean, as far as feeling this, Yeah, it's pretty wild. And again, it's not just hitting adrenals. I mean, most nootropics, and caffeine being a big one, all you're doing is cranking adrenaline and cortisol. And most pre-workouts are built that way. Most energy drinks are built that way. Um, Wade has got a better story than mine, but he achieved adrenal burnout, like, over a long period of time of pushing himself to the max. And I saw the price. Like it took him a year and a half to recover. Mag Breakthrough was a big part of that recovery, but it's brutal, and of course, when you're young, you're more resilient, but in your 30s, you're less resilient. Your 40s, you're definitely less, and something to be mindful of. But what we're doing here is bumping dopamine or GABA and or serotonin and or acetylcholine, and we're achieving, and that's how you create a state, and so much in life, like in my opinion, what I try to do is be in an optimized state based on what I'm doing. And for an example, right now I'm on a specific stack that's optimizing my serotonin, my verbal fluency, my noradrenaline, and dopamine to get me in this state that I love to be in for podcasts. It makes me more verbal. I'm slightly introverted naturally. And that's just an example. So I'm kind of always, I've got a few stacks that I use depending what I'm doing. And that to me is part of the biomodulation that we're all about at BiOptimizers. Like, supplements do that, exercise do that. There's a lot of things that biomodulate that. I know you're a big guy in ice, like boom, you get endorphins, you get noradrenaline, like, it shifts your state when you're getting the ice, right? It's huge. So we can do that with nootropics and combinations of different plants and produce extraordinary effects. So anyways, that's coming out. So like you said, like you see, we're really just ramping up. Like, we're starting to get at the speed that I want to go. I mean, I want to release new products almost every month. Like that's my goal. 2021, I think we're going to be close to that. And it's not just supplements, it's going to be cookbooks, coaching, apps, all the entire gamut, but we're just getting started, man. So that's it. Our 25-year kind of vision is to bring biological optimization and make it available and affordable to everyone on earth, which is going to require us to evolve way past supplements. So we're incredibly ambitious, and it's just endless. And I love endless games. Like, to me, I'll never stop doing this. Wade and I have worked for a long time for pills. Like we were, not taking a dime, just keeping the money in the company. And we've hit tough times. Right now we're in a hyper growth stage, but the point is we never gave up. We just kept going because we love what we do, and we know we make a difference. So that's the long version of where we're going.
Awesome. I love that. And I'm super excited for what's to come here. And I'm excited to try these customizable superhuman capsules. And I'm really honored that you took the time here to share all your wisdom, your knowledge, and everything today. So I just want to, first of all, thank you. And thank you everyone listening. And I'm going to put a lot of links in the description box here. I'll put a lot of my page full of notes for everyone to check out there as well. And I'll put all the links to a lot of these products. And Matt, what's the best place for people to follow along with you and all the cool stuff you're doing?
Yeah. So I have a blog that needs some updating, but there's a lot of content on there. It's called mattgallant.tv. People can go there. There's more marketing stuff, life stuff. There's a great, basically a book. It's like 82 pages called Triple Your Productivity. So for people that need to be hyper effective and efficient, like myself, who's doing multiple things, it's a great book. It's kind of like distilled my best stuff for that. But then BiOptimizers.com, all the social media handles. We're about to go completely hog wild on YouTube. So if you're not following us on YouTube, go there. We're going to be creating actually 3 more channels, one for keto, one for paleo, one for plant eaters. And we're going to be bringing in a lot of the world-class chefs filming cool content. We got a lot of great shows. We got 5 shows we're producing. We're actually building a studio in Venice. So we're going to be going hog wild on content in the video form and then book form. And for people that are going to be ordering products in probably November, you're going to receive the BiOptimizers, which is our magazine, the first issue of a magazine. It's 28 pages, got a lot of great content, stuff that is not anywhere else. And yeah, so again, we're really committing to content. We've got the Awesome Health podcast, which Wade hosts, a lot of great guests there as well. So again, we're as committed to the education part, which is why I love doing these and I love what you're doing, because we're proliferating these thoughts into more minds. And then for everyone listening, hey, you've got the power to share this with your friends, your family. And that's how we keep spreading that. And that's how we bring biological optimization to the world. Like, it's not just BiOptimizers, it's everyone involved, every biohacker, every health expert. If we keep just sharing the message, that message gets shared and then it gets shared and it gets shared. And hopefully in 25 years from now, like, it's just the norm to be really healthy and awesome and live to 150 and, be dancing and having sex at 140. And you know what I'm saying? Like, rocking life to a different dimension, not just, short-term, but long-term. And that's where, again, we're as much into health span, lifespan as we are into these aesthetics and performance.
Well, man, that's exactly where I'm going. So I'll see you in the hundreds when we're centenarians. So I'll see you there.
Yeah, we'll do another podcast. Well,
yeah,
hopefully one before that, but we'll definitely do one on our 100.
Yeah, I think I'm going to be the last one to hit 100 of the two of us. So on my 100th birthday, we'll do a centenarian podcast.
Awesome.
But thank you so much, Matt. Thank you for being here. Everyone, thank you for listening. Again, I'm going to put a lot of links in the description box here. So follow Matt on YouTube, BiOptimizers. Check him out. Going to put all those links here. Thank you everyone for listening. Have a great day. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Whole Health with Rob Carney podcast with our guest, Matt Gallant. So to connect with Matt, learn about all the cool things he's doing, and learn more about BiOptimizers, I'm going to put all the links that he talked about in the description box here so you can check those out. And if you want to try any of the great products that Matt has talked about, from the Magnesium Breakthrough, which is a personal favorite, the Enzymes, Capex, Primergen, P3OM, HCL, and many more, remember, you can use the discount code WHOLEHEALTH to save 10% on your order every time. And so part of what Whole Health Connections is geared towards is really finding the best products and the best tools on the market for you to optimize your health and vitality, really focusing on reducing stress, improving sleep, and increasing energy. So for all the latest things that I've been working on, you can go to wholehealthconnects.com or connect with me on Instagram at Whole Health Connections, all one word, WHOLE, Health Connections with an S. So I want to thank you for listening. And again, I want to thank Matt for being here today. Thank you all so much for your support. If you have any questions, any comments, I'd love to hear it at Whole Health Connections on Instagram or my website, wholehealthconnects.com. Thanks again for listening. Have a beautiful day.